Imagine walking through a bustling 17th century marketplace in Agra or Lahore, jade inlaid armor, Dhaka muslin lighter than air, dockyards building dozens of giant ships. This was Mughal India at its peak, an empire so wealthy it outpaced Europe itself. By around 1700, scholars estimate Mughal-ruled India contributed roughly 24 to 25% of world GDP. In contrast, all of Western Europe together produced less. How could this be? Europe had many powerful kingdoms, yet India's economy was a colossus. The answer lies in four hidden systems: agriculture, industry, trade, and money. Let's break them down. First, agriculture and state revenue. Under Emperor Akbar, who ruled from 1556 to 1605, the Mughal state did something revolutionary. It measured and taxed every acre of farmland in cash, not kind. Akbar's finance minister, Todar Mal, surveyed fields and set tax rates in silver rupees. This was a radical shift. The state collected well over half of a peasant's crop in taxes, a far larger share than most medieval states. On one hand, that sounds brutal, but on the other, it monetized the entire rural economy. Peasants had to sell rice or wheat in markets to pay taxes in money, tying every village into a cash economy. The result, the Mughal treasury flooded with silver and grain. With such revenue, the empire funded huge projects, road building, caravanserais, even elaborate courts, and reinvested in the economy instead of stagnating. By comparison, in 17th century Europe, many regions still relied on feudal dues and barter. There were nobles who took bits of harvest, but few modern survey and tax systems. India's 52% agriculture GDP share was harnessed to fuel growth. Irrigation networks expanded fields, and incentives, like tax breaks on new farmland, multiplied output. The crops were not just for subsistence. Cotton, silk, indigo, sugar, and other cash crops were grown on purpose, exporting high-value goods rather than just rice. This strategic focus on commerce-packed crops, often under Mughal protection, set India on a path to high output. Next, manufacturing. Think textiles. Newsflash: early modern India was a textile superpower. Indian weavers produced the finest cotton and silk cloth in the world. Muslin from Dhaka, cotton from Gujarat, silks from Bengal. These were the luxury imports every royal court demanded. Remarkably, until 1750, Mughal India made about 25% of the world's industrial goods. Yes, a quarter of global manufactured output. That alone dwarfed any single European kingdom's industry. Those high-tech muslins had complex weave patterns, and only India knew how to make them so fine that European buyers fell in love. But it wasn't just textiles. The Mughals built karkhanas, royal workshops producing steel swords, cannons, jewelry, and even ships. Bengal's shipyards launched over 200,000 tons of ships annually, vastly outnumbering North America's output a century later. These ships weren't just for decoration. They traded with Africa, the Middle East, Southeast Asia, and Europe. Indian saltpeter, a gunpowder ingredient, and diamonds from Golconda fueled wars and jewelry cabinets worldwide. In short, Mughal workshops and artisans hammered out goods across every category. Europeans often complained of competition. British and Dutch textile makers protested against cheap Indian cotton flooding Europe. Indeed, some British weavers were ruinously undercut, which partly prompted protective tariffs in Britain. All this production required stable trade networks. Here's a key difference. Mughal India embraced global commerce on generous terms. Unlike many mercantilist European states, imperial decrees, called farmans, granted European companies rights to trade in Indian ports, often at low toll rates. For example, the Radari toll was only 2.5 to 5% on goods, intentionally set low. Highways like the Grand Trunk Road connected Lahore to Bengal, dotted with caravans every day's march for safe travel. Thanks to this welcoming policy, bills of exchange and currency flowed smoothly. The Mughal silver rupee, standardized by Akbar, was accepted across Asia. Western merchants loaded their ships with silver to buy Indian cloth. In fact, one study notes Mughal India was one of the largest global net importers of silver outside Europe. Vast quantities of New World silver via European and Ottoman traders ended up in Indian treasuries. This silver cycle was crucial. It paid for crops, factories, and kept India's economy well-oiled. What about wages and living standards? Broadberry and Gupta's data show that if you bought wheat with your wages, a 1600s Indian day labor did almost as well as an English one. By one reckoning, rural grain wages in Mughal India were about 70 to 80% of England's real value at the time. By the 1700s, the gap widened, but not in the earlier centuries. In other words, India's per-person output was lower than Britain's, but the difference wasn't enormous. Combined with India's huge population, over 100 million by 1700, even a slightly lower per capita output meant a massive total economy. Finally, let's contrast with Europe. In 1600, England's population was only around 4 million, with GDP around 23 million pounds. Mughal India's GDP per capita, using 16th century exchange rates, was smaller in silver terms. But because the market price of grain was much lower in India, everyday incomes were surprisingly competitive. Still, Europe had multiple countries to India's one empire, but they were often racked by wars. Spain drained itself chasing New World empires. England, France, and the Netherlands were busy fighting each other. India, under the Mughals, had relative peace, a pax Mughalisa, and focus on trade. So, were the Mughals richer? By many measures, yes. The empire's total output dwarfed any single European state, and in those centuries, Asia dominated the world economy. Recent economists have emphasized parity until the 19th century, meaning it's not crazy to say India matched or beat Europe before 1750, but context matters. After 1750, Europe's Industrial Revolution flipped the balance. By 1800, Britain surged ahead, and India's share plunged under colonial rule. To be clear, we don't have Mughal diaries screaming, "We will out-earn Europe." That would be pure inference, but the data is striking. The Mughal treasury filled with grain, jewels, silver. Traders flocked to its markets. This undercut the old Eurocentric myth that only Europe grew rich. Today, we can see the Mughal Empire as an industrial and commercial powerhouse whose story was once sidelined by history books.